Hey y'all, Fred here. Thanks so much for joining me today. We're going to do some cut testing on the Spyderco Manix 2. This is a replica. This is the lightweight model, in case you couldn't tell. These are the lightweight FRN scales. I got this off Temu a very long time ago. One of the first few videos I think I ever put out was on the old Manix. I got 3 of them at the same time, and only one of them had the screws that were removable. And that's true to the original too. When the Manix first came out, the body screws were not removable. They were basically like rivets, and you had to drill them out and poke them through the hole to remove them and then replace them. So both sides had what looked like these rivets on them you could not remove. But one of them, luckily enough, this one, did have removable. I think I paid all of 20 bucks for this thing, a hair under 20 bucks on Temu back in the day. That was, I thought, a pretty cool deal. The action on this knife is really nice, actually. It's nice and smooth and drop shot. I've had no issues with it whatsoever. It actually came centered right out of the gate, so you gotta love that. This is, however, an incredibly cheap steel. So one of the things you may or may not notice here is that I did try to cut my own sharpening choil into it. This is not how they come. I did that myself, just trying to play with it, really. I thought if I'm going to destroy a knife, I might as well do it with a $20 cheapo from Temu, right? And it actually worked out pretty well. I also did that, and I didn't even mention it, on my 𝗧𝗲𝗽𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍𝗍 y'all. This is just a heavy-duty work knife, and if that M390 turns out to be decent, I'll be real happy with that. At any rate, let's talk about the Manix 2. Has been out for a long time. This is the lightweight version. Like I said, this is definitely more on the full-size knife. It is almost the same size as the PM2, definitely larger here than the Para 3. Let's see if I can put them butt to button, end to end. Yeah, this Para 2 has definitely got it by probably a good ½ inch or so. But the other thing is the size, the overall size. The reason I don't carry this so much is it's such a tall knife, very lightweight. I'll bring up the specs. We'll do the specs real quick and we can talk about that. Full open length is right at 8 inches. To me, that just makes the line for full length, full size knife. 3.37 inches on the blade, 4.66. I'm a size large glove. There's choke forward. You could have any size hand, and really choke back even on this thing. You could still have easily extra large, maybe a double XL, still fit in the reverse position. Nice, good, fills the hand kind of knife. Blade thickness on this one is a little thicker on the 125 thousandths. That's pretty good. Handle thickness is only 0.46. Got some really good grippiness to it. I don't know if that comes out. There's almost like jimping built into the FRN scales on both the top and the bottom here. You definitely are locked in. And then the bi-directional pattern, if y'all haven't ever experienced these are way cool. So radiating out from the center, let's see if I can zoom in. What am I trying to say here? Come on, number 2. The texture that is built in or cut into these FRN scales is ramped up in this direction towards the center of the knife, so that going in this direction it's incredibly grippy. Going in this direction it's not grippy. This direction is really grippy. And then same thing on the back. If I'm pushing out that way, really grippy. So radiating out grippiness, if that makes sense. One of the really cool things, and almost all their lightweight models have some variation of that. Again, this is a cheap Temu version. Have no idea what the steel is. I'm going to guess this is a rather poor quality 8CR13. It is full flat grind, right? So got the regular FRCP, I think it is, scales here. 2.88 ounces makes this ultra light. The action on this thing is really good. It's just the overall size and width. You know, for the weight, you get a lot of good blade and a good size knife that's fairly sturdy despite, you know, the light weight of it. I know that the steel isn't that good. I did put this thing on a sharpening on the Worksharp Pro to reprofile it down to an 18 degree, ran it up through about an 800 grit stone, and then of course still a ceramic and strops and all that. So as far as sharpness is concerned, let me grab a piece of paper here. The sharpness is, well, if you hit the paper, is on point. I mean, this thing is a 10 out of 10, right? I just put a brand new 18 degree edge on it. Yeehaw for that. However, very soft steel. That's what I discovered on there. I'm going to say this might be a 56 to 58 HRC. I don't even know if it'll hit 58. I'm going to say 56 or 57. Just, it was real easy to reprofile, and then as you get into the lighter grits, you can feel just that burr just bends back and forth like soft steel does. It's almost like, you know, if you take a paper clip and you have to bend it back and forth a million times before it finally snaps, kind of like that. That's what you get on a soft steel, and that's what this was. So I'm not expecting a lot out of it. However, this will be interesting because every time I sharpen a knife, it always does pretty good given the quality or lack thereof of the steel. So this will be a good indication to tell me, at least, if you sharpen a low quality soft steel, can it still hold up and hang pretty well for good everyday use? And that's really all I'm looking to get out of this test today. All right, that was a little more than I wanted to give you, but I wanted to give you the whole background on this knife. Let's get over to the cutting table and start cutting.
And as always, we're going to start with the cardboard cutting test. We got 404 square inches of cardboard. This thing is going to handle cardboard like a champ. This is one of those strange blades. Every time I pick it up and look at the blade, it feels like a very thin and slicey blade, but it's 125 thousandths, which certainly is not thick, but nor is it like the thinnest of slicey blades. But that tall leaf-shaped blade really is just ideally suited, it feels like, for all this kind of cardboard cutting. And it's tearing through the cardboard. As you can imagine, I sharpened it beforehand. It was nice and sharp to begin with. The only issue I run into a little bit is with that choil that I cut in. I tend to hit that choil and catch the cardboard in that a little bit. I've got a new way of cutting choils into them now. It's really a very thin hairline choil. It works great. But as far as overall cutting, ergonomics are great, feels great. I'm choked forward in that finger choil, got my thumb on the ramp. This is a beautiful beast of a knife for tearing down cardboard. If that's what you had to do with it, this is a great knife for that purpose. Question is this seal really soft, as I think it is? And you can see we're not starting out great. Not bad. I certainly have seen worse. But I can already tell it's definitely getting a little bit dull, and what I think I see and will hold true for the rest of this test, somewhere around the middle of that blade, there's a little bit of a nick in there. Right now I can still cut past it, so I'm going to give it a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. Right now we're going to just score this thing an 8, and let's just see how it holds up. This isn't really a scored test, but the center line of this knife is actually nice and low, so you don't have to reach up too high in order to do these kind of draw cuts. Nice pointy tip, feels solid in the hand, very good. No issues whatsoever doing draw cuts. You're going to be pretty happy if that's the kind of cutting that you do with this. Now the sisal rub. If you watched many of these tests, you'll know that normally I do the hose, but I always tend to get these backwards, and so I'll do the hose after the rope here. I should have done that first. The rope, I'm looking for good rope pop. What I mean by that is I want to be able to push the knife just one stroke down through there, just clean slicing it off. I don't want to have to saw back and forth, and that's what you're watching me have to do here. So what you're watching is basically the knife getting duller and duller with each cut. Now, sisal rope is actually pretty hard on a knife edge. It will dull a blade very quickly, probably more than just about anything else. It's just a very hard fibrous rope. That fibers of it tend to really do some damage. But, you know, it feels good in the hand. It's got enough of a belly that it doesn't really affect that, I think. You know, I didn't have to put it up on a board or anything. But as you can see here, I'm trying to go really slow to see if I've done any damage to the tip. I already know that somewhere in the middle of this blade I've got that snag, so I keep running into that like an idiot. I need to really just focus out on the very tip of the blade to see, did we do any additional damage beyond what we saw in the first round. You can see it's pretty rough here. What you're seeing is just a knife that is soft and is getting dull. So I'm going to put that at a 7.5. Let's say we'll split the difference. Now we've got the reinforced rubber hose. It's a pretty thick little hose. I'm looking for the same thing. I don't want to have to saw this thing back and forth. And what you'll see here, I'll show it to you in just a second, is that it's just not making very clean cuts down through that hose. It's cutting it. It'll do just fine and dandy. But this is where, you know, the softness is starting to come into play. As it gets more dull, it doesn't make those clean cuts you can see there on the edge. So let's make some chopped rubber hose salad. I'm just trying to do more damage really to the edge, to the tip of the blade, because that's what I've done in all the tests. And in order to be kind of fair to all of them, I need to do a bunch more chopping. So we already know it's getting a little bit dull. Let's see. So there's that snag in the middle, but that looked pretty good. That's where this thing gets deceiving, you know. Some of the passes will go cleanly and then some just hang up like that right there. I just can't even get past that middle spot right now. I just have to hack my way through it. So pretty clear we're at best a 7 at this point in time and dropping. So let's see what the wood can do for us here. And the wood test is really more about ergonomics. I do look to see if it gets good bite into the wood, and what we'll see here is that we actually do get really good bite into the wood. Some of the better bite into this wood of a lot of knives I've tested recently. So now I'm going to the choke back position. That first little round of cutting, I was using that forward finger choil, really bearing down on it now. What I'm coming to find is that back of that blade is just thin and slicey enough, and the edges of the handle, it's comfortable, but you know, for my soft girly hands, you'll get a little bit of a hot spot if you're putting a lot of pressure on your thumb. That's again where that blade gets deceiving. It feels and looks thinner than maybe it is. So let's see if we did any damage. Usually wood doesn't further the damage, doesn't dull the knife too much more than whatever it was before this. Now that's with a good steel. What we're seeing here in this crazy struggle bus is your boy forgot to how to cut paper, it looks like. And really the reality is this thing has just gotten dull as hell. I cannot find almost any part of this blade that will cut any more through this paper. That'd probably still cut your hand, but I'm actually revising that. It's not even a 5. I marked this down to a 4 afterwards. So let's chop this thing back up. Being as it's a soft steel to begin with, as we have seen here, it should strop back fairly easily. For those of you who don't watch my videos regularly, the brown side of my strop is the rough side of the leather. I have a 16 micron diamond emulsion. Slow-mo, that was a real piss poor, but I did wipe the blade on my pants just a little bit before I switched over to the green side, which is a 6 micron diamond emulsion. This has been a great combination for me. Y'all had recommended, actually, that I try some of these different stropping compounds, and they worked like a champ. And as you can see here, because it was a nice soft steel, this thing is back to 10 out of a 10. I don't need any more passes than that. You can just feel when a knife is thin and slicey and cuts easy. So yeehaw for that. We made it back to a 10. All right, let's bring this thing home. Sorry for all the small numbers on a very small screen. Hopefully you got a big screen to watch this at. Far right side, Spyderco Manix 2 lightweight replica. This was our $20 Temu special. We have no idea what the steel was because Temu certainly doesn't tell you, and if they did, I wouldn't believe them. So we don't know what the HRC rating is or what Knife Steel Nerds would rate it. I did sharpen it before we started our testing, reprofiled it down to an 18 degrees. Part of that is my fault. Part of the reason it didn't do better in some of these tests, I think, is because I go all the way up. You know, I just get greedy and I want to have that polished mirror looking edge on it, so I go all the way up to an 800 diamond, and then of course the ceramic, lots of ceramic, and then my stropping that we do, that takes some of the bite out of the blade, and so that's why I didn't do better in the rope test, probably the hose too, although this thing is so soft it probably wouldn't have mattered. Anyhow, started at a 10 out of 10, cut 404 square inches of cardboard, dropped it down to an 8. Then we skipped down and did the rope cuts first, did our 10 rope cuts as usual, and after that, dropped down to a 7.5. Still got that snag in the middle of the blade. Then we went back and did our 3 hose cuts, dropped it down to a 7 out of 10. Then we did our wood cutting, and that dropped it down to a 4. Again, I revised it down to a 4. It just hardly wouldn't cut at all at that point in time. And it'd still cut you if you like cut your hand hard enough. You would definitely cut yourself. But in terms of slicing paper, right? So I did 25 strokes per side on the stropping. Got it back to a 10 out of 10. So let me give you my take home here. It was kind of almost better than expected based on how soft I knew it was when I did the sharpening. When I was sharpening this thing, reprofiling it, I knew, oh, this is some really soft steel here. I say, you know, it feels like a cheap 8CR13. I don't even know if you could give it, I mean, like when I say cheap, I mean like way cheap, like we didn't bother hardening it at all kind of 8CR13, the kind you get on, you know, random Chinese clone knives. It did great in the cardboard, tore it up, no issues. You would never know this wasn't just a fantastic knife. Just did okay in the rope. We ended up having to saw it a little bit. The hose you saw, then it started falling apart a little bit more. Not very clean on those cuts. I've seen worse, but not very good, certainly. The ergonomics are obviously a great feature of this knife. It's one of the reasons everybody loves these knives. They just feel great in the hand overall. This is obviously no exception to that. As I mentioned, the back edge of the blade, you can get a little bit of a hot spot when you're really pushing down on your thumb, and I tend to ride my thumb over the top of these thumb ramps. I'm not a big thumb ramp fan because basically I'm pushing my thumb down on the middle of that hump, and of course that makes it worse for me just because I'm stupid and hold the blade that way. I prefer the minimal thumb ramps to no thumb ramps, kind of like what you get on the Native series. Native Chief, Native 5, you know, is one of my favorites. It's easy to forget. This is, like I said, a weird thing. It's not thin, but it's not thick either. When you look at this knife, it looks like a thinner, slicier blade than it is. It definitely is tall and thin, full flat grind. So by the time you get down to that edge, you're dealing with a pretty fine edge there. So again, you're cutting cardboard, great, no problem at all. You're going to love this knife all day long. I think this is, you know, the box of chocolates that we're playing in here. I probably could have bought, and I did actually at the time, bought several others. I didn't test the others, but I probably could have tested, you know, the others that I bought at a different time from Temu, and they might have done great. We've seen here some, you know, no-name replica knives do exceptionally well in these tests. You just never know what you're going to get with any one of these. Overall, it's got great action, great flipping action. You know, it's a ball lock, so there's not really a detent ball in here, but the detent, as it were, is good. It flips great. The lock mechanism is great. You can, you know, pull that lock back, that axis lock. It's really a ball lock in there, but it drops closed, doesn't bounce. So the action's good. It's a little bit fidgety in that regard. Very lightweight for the size of this knife. If you want a great full-size knife that is really EDC friendly because it's so lightweight, it's got a nice, big, thick, slicey, thin, slicey blade. It's a little bit tall, fills the pocket a little bit too much, so I knocked a couple of points off for that. Overall, I'm giving this a 4 on the edge retention because it just didn't do that good. But in terms of an EDC, I'd still give it about an 8. I prefer slightly smaller knives. Y'all probably know that if you see my videos. But a lot of people love this knife. And if I was going somewhere where I knew I just needed a bigger, slicier blade, but I didn't want to carry something heavy, I would absolutely carry this thing. It's a great EDC knife. It's one of the reasons it's so popular. Again, the only thing that's holding it back is that it's got a lousy edge retention. And, you know, I could have bought 10 of these and probably 5 of them would have done outstanding and 5 of them would have done this bad. You just never know what you're going to get. That's the problem in this world. But listen, I only dropped 20 bucks. Am I sad about it? No, not at all. I'm still pretty happy with the whole deal. I'm glad to have one in my collection. I wish it had better edge retention. Let me know what y'all have experienced. I'm sure some of y'all have bought some of these replica Manix 2s, the Manix 2 regular or the lightweight. I'd love to hear what y'all's experience have been with these knives. Have you had the same thing where it just goes dull really quick, or have you gotten some winners? Our boy John, who keeps loaning knives to us to review on the channel, he seems to pick the winners. I don't have as much luck as he does. Anyhow, I'd love to hear from you guys down in the comments. If you're not already subscribed, I'd love to have you join our little band of renegades. Hit that subscribe button, notification bell. You will be notified when we put some new videos out. I try to get at least a couple of these out each week. Otherwise, throw your boy a thumbs up on your way out the door. It really helps me out, and I appreciate it. And I will see you guys on the next video. Thanks. Take care.